finally, we're in the Bahamas. I gotta tell you, that flight was grueling. But now I'm finally here, and I get to relax and breathe in that ocean air. What do you say, honey? You excited or what? No, I told you I didn't want to come here. What? But you've been going on and on about how we need a vacation, and now both of our jobs have given us the time off. And I also told you numerous times that if we were going to plan a vacation during the wet season, specifically mid-September to late October, that the Caribbean is the last place we should go. Oh geez, again with this? You think there's gonna be a hurricane, don't you? It is literally hurricane season right now. But it's not even summer anymore. We're in October. What makes you think we're more likely to get a hurricane now than any other time of year? Because, and if you had listened to me the first 1,000 times I said it, the water is at its warmest in early fall because it takes the ocean a couple of months to heat up and cool down even after the seasons change and the air temperature fluctuates. Yeah, well, I had already booked the trip and they weren't accepting any refunds, so what was I supposed to do? Oh gee, I don't know. Maybe don't book trips without consulting me first, and instead saying at the last minute, hey, by the way, pack your bags, we're going to this place. God, this is just like that time you booked that ziplining trip, even though I've made it very clear that I'm afraid of heights. Oh yeah, by the way, that's one of the activities that was highlighted in the brochure. We're doing that on Tuesday, so can you try to throw up like you did last time? That was really embarrassing. For me, of course. I hate you. Look, I checked the weather report before we left, and it said we'd have clear weather all week. Hurricanes are unpredictable this time of year. They can form anywhere, at any point, very quickly, giving the people who live here little to no preparation time before disaster strikes. And most of the time, their infrastructure isn't built to withstand the repeated annual onslaught of ever-worsening storms that continue to batter the area. Keep in mind that outside these cushy resorts, the Bahamas and most of the Caribbean are developing countries that are already poverty-stricken and have high crime rates. And hurricanes are making that worse by stunting their development. Oh yeah, I tried to think about that. Kinda ruins my own vacation experience, you know? Hey, welcome to the Bahamas! We just got fresh seafood, warm weather, beautiful scenery. And best of all, champagne! Haha, I saw that movie on the plane. Amazing. I don't drink. Think may I interest you in some switzer? It's fresh squeezed. Will you please just go away? Can't you see I'm arguing with my dumb, inconsiderate husband? Yo, what the wife is with your cunny, bro? Oh, she's just mad because she doesn't want to be here. Hey, who don't want to be in the Bahamas? We got champagne, yes, I know. Again, hilarious movie. But, the missus here has it in her head that it's hurricane season for you guys. And apparently there's going to be a hurricane and we're all gonna get stuck in it. But I keep trying to tell her that's not going to happen. You think you can back me up here? Ooh, yeah, I think she might be right, dog. What? Come on, not you too. Yeah, see, I ain't want to say nothing before because I just try to put on a brave face for all the tourists dumb enough to visit during wet season. But yeah, you stenching on coming here was a bad idea. But look at the weather! It's perfectly sunny! Hardly a cloud in the sky! Has you checked over in that direction? Oh, that? I wouldn't worry about that. I mean, look at how far out to sea it is. What are the odds it actually comes this way? I'd say the odds are pretty high. Yikes, the wife's showing now, eh? Looks like a big one heading our way directly. Last year, a hurricane struck in the middle of the night. My neighbor was asleep the whole time. Next morning, his house gone, and he wake up dead. Wouldn't be surprised if this one take the whole neighborhood with it. Hope you two can swim. I wanna go home! I wanna go home! Oh, will you two stop it? It's just a little wind. It's not like it's gonna get strong enough to actually pick us up. I knew I should have never done that. Well, mother sick. Ladies and gentlemen, what you've just witnessed is a poorly planned vacation to a hurricane-prone area during the wet season. Hurricanes kill around 10,000 people every year and injure tens of thousands more, all while causing billions of dollars worth of damages. Now, the idea of being stuck in the middle of a hurricane while you're on vacation is scary enough, but imagine what life must be like for the people who live there full time and have to deal with this phenomena on a regular basis. When most people think of the Caribbean, they think of lush beaches with crystal clear waters, sipping cocktails under a bamboo umbrella, high-class resorts, cruises, delicious barbecue, and that one song by the Beach Boys that describes everything I just said and more. But life is no relaxing tropical getaway for the people who live outside the cushy resort walls. Most of the countries in the Caribbean are second or third world nations plagued with high poverty and crime rates among the general public, poor infrastructure and low standards of living, and inadequate distribution of resources to sustain the growing population. But why is it that all these countries are in such poor shape? Well, I could go into the harsh and brutal colonial history of the Caribbean and how wealthier nations basically exploited these islands for all their natural resources, leaving the residents with nothing. Or I could explore the corrupt nature of the tourism industry and how it works in cahoots with the equally corrupt governments of these island nations, which is why full-time residents receive little to none of the benefits of tourism, which otherwise bolsters the economies of first world nations across Europe and Asia, which are also popular vacation destinations. But unfortunately, that would make the video far too long, and it would mostly only cover how we got to where we are, rather than focus on the issues plaguing these countries today. Those issues being infrastructural ones. Because it isn't just corruption and greed that's keeping these countries from developing. It's also in the weather patterns brought on by the climates of these areas, namely hurricanes, which is the main subject of this documentary. Hurricanes are huge, powerful oceanic storms that occur along the tropics right after summer's end. And when they make their way towards dry land, they bring a raging torrent of seawater with them. Late September through mid-October is peak hurricane season along the Tropic of Cancer, where the Caribbean is, and late March through mid-April along the Tropic of Capricorn. During these time periods, the seawater is at its absolute warmest in those areas. Warmer water means more evaporation. More evaporation means more rain clouds form, and all these storm clouds in the sky, combined with the constant high-speed swirling winds that occur on the oceans at all times, as well as the seemingly endless supply of water constantly being fed into the storm system, keeping the clouds full, and you've got these really big, really powerful maelstroms called hurricanes. Hurricanes are one of the main obstacles keeping these countries from developing, and therefore hindering their economic and societal growth, because they happen every single year. People's homes get destroyed and they have to be rebuilt every single year. Entire neighborhoods are swept away and have to be repaired every single year. Citizens who do end up surviving these natural disasters often end up losing everything that they own, and they're left financially ruined. You guessed it, every single year. How can we make it so that less of these homes get knocked down by strong winds or swept away by raging torrents, giving the residents more time to live their lives and focus on their goals instead of having to start over after every hurricane season? What if we change the shape of their houses? They're usually square or rectangular, right? Well, why don't we make them round instead?
We ain't talking about this or this. We're talking about this.
You might think I'm joking, but I'm actually being dead serious. Round houses are actually more wind resistant than their square counterparts, and they're less likely to succumb to strong winds blowing in the same direction. Take a look at this diagram. Here we have a square home in the Caribbean during a hurricane, and Category 5 winds blowing constantly in this direction, knocking everything over. As you can see, this wall right here is being hit by a seemingly endless barrage of these strong winds head on. It's only a matter of time before this wall caves in from the pressure, and then everything gets torn apart from the inside out, and there's no more house. Why did this happen? Because as the wind approaches the home from the side, it had nowhere else to go once it hit the wall. The sharp, rigid corners prevented the wind from escaping to anywhere else, forcing the wall to absorb all the force until it couldn't anymore and gave way. Hell, even a triangular structure stands more of a chance in extreme winds. But this, of course, depends on which direction the wind is blowing from. Sure, the wind might be able to divert itself around the walls if it's blowing towards the corner, but if it's hitting one of the sides straight on, that wall will cave in and the whole house will go with it. Circular homes, however, have no corners to trap the winds and therefore have no defined sides for the wind to focus all of their pressure on. When the winds hit a round home, it's given enough flexibility to simply go around it as opposed to straight into it, no matter which direction it's blowing from. Today we are going to cover 3 main points regarding round houses in the Caribbean and hurricane-prone areas. First, what are the benefits of round houses? Second, what would be the best material for building these houses? And third, how does helping solve the hurricane crisis in these countries also allow them to develop in other ways? Let's begin with number 1. There's a contracting company based in Asheville, North Carolina called Deltec Homes, who are dedicated to building and spreading the word about houses and residential structures that are round instead of square.
I'm Tim Riddle, and I have worked with Deltec Homes since 2000. We manufacture a panelized system so that a circular home can be built anywhere in the world. The founder of the company, Bob Kinzer, was actually a nuclear engineer with Oak Ridge Laboratories in Tennessee. His brother had a little more of an entrepreneurial bent and got interested in timeshares. So the two did get together. Mr. Kinzer came up with a unique design to create that clear span roof, and he supplied his brother Wayne with the structures to do these timeshares. And the timeshares were built where people like to go. They would like to go to the coast, along the ocean, by golf courses, and that's where those original structures were built.
As I mentioned before, round structures have wind-resistant qualities, primarily due to their shape. If you observe these following images, you'll see that the surrounding buildings have been completely collapsed, while the round structures, aka the Deltec homes, receive minimal damage.
What could survive 140 miles per hour winds? This house can. It was actually designed to remain intact during a hurricane. How was that possible? Why this house and not the others?
My house survived the hurricane.
It's because the pressure that a wind creates on the outside of a home is deflected as it pushes. It only has an 8-foot wide area to push against, and then that pressure is actually directed towards the next wall panel, which is directed to the next. We also have a radial pattern to the roof trusses and the floor trusses, so that also helps redirect the loads. So it's minimizing the effect of that high wind.
The company is becoming increasingly popular in the hurricane-prone states that make up the Southeast, such as Florida. Of course, these states, being part of a first-world nation such as the USA, are able to sustain better infrastructure and get the help they need quickly after disaster strikes. The Caribbean sovereign island nations, though, as well as overseas colonies neglected by the Crown, aren't so lucky to receive the help, and are usually left to fend for themselves after a disaster strikes.
Will you get help from the government to repair?
Well, I'm not sure about that still. I feel like the people around here have to go do their own thing.
This is why I think that Deltec Homes and other roundhouse contracting companies such as Mandela Homes and Continental Kit should be expanding their territory into these countries and creating a stronger presence down there. But aside from wind resistance, what are some of the other benefits of having a round house? Well, according to Deltec, round homes are usually more energy efficient due to taking up less surface area than a square home of a similar size. They cost less to run electricity and plumbing through, as well as heat up and cool down. Not that you'd really need to heat up your house in a tropical climate that often, but AC will definitely come in handy. Turns out cutting corners does have its benefits.
The remarkable energy efficiency is related to the tightness of the homes, because we're building them in a facility with the same dimensional integrity from wall to wall and truss to truss. So it all fits together very tightly, as well as there being less surface area. So there's less material exposed to heat and cold outside compared relative to the interior space.
Not only that, the reliability of round structures is backed by historical evidence. Think about it. When you picture structures built by early humans, you usually think of those straw or wooden huts. And what shape are these huts usually? Round.
Primarily the shape of the home sort of harkens back to some of the original homes of certain African areas, as well as Mongolia, the home of the yurt.
Tree branches and straw are some flimsy building materials, but humans at the time didn't really have access to much else. It doesn't take much to knock down one of these huts, but rarely would you see a square one, meaning that humans discovered early on that round structures are more reliable against the forces of nature.
Well, they had many examples around them. You know, birds' nests, they don't build them square. Certain animals don't, the insects, they create circular dwellings. And I think that certainly lends itself to that kind of shape when we're talking about early humans. The teepees of Native Americans, they understood the geometry of this leaning against that.
It wasn't until we began discovering more durable building materials, like masonry, then our structures became more square, and we lost sight of the benefits of round structures. What do you say we rediscover some of those benefits? Of course, it's not just the shape of the house that makes it structurally sound, that plays a bigger factor than you might think it would, but it's also the material that it's built from. Sure, you could build your round house's exterior out of wood siding, and it'll last longer than a square wooden house, but it's still wood at the end of the day. Don't be surprised if the siding gets stripped away by the wind as it's passing by your house, which can cause floodwater to enter where it's not supposed to, leading to long-term damages like mold. Stone and masonry are a more viable option to prevent these types of problems, but the problem is that brick and stone houses tend to cost more, which is why they aren't as commonly seen in suburban neighborhoods as wooden houses. Concrete houses are also a good option for those who live in windy and rainy areas due to its impermeability and durability. Like I mentioned before, concrete structures are more resistant to flood damage. The problem with concrete, however, is not only the fact that it's more costly as well, but the production of it is inefficient and environmentally taxing. Luckily, there's a possible alternative in the cards that is not only cheaper to produce, but also more eco-friendly, and yet it's seemingly just as versatile as traditional concrete.
Cement that's made entirely from waste products is being touted by scientists from NTU as cheaper and greener than the regular version. They found a way to make what's being called BioCement.
Engineers at Nanyang Tech University in Singapore recently came up with a material called BioCement, which is a concrete-like substance that is made primarily from industrial waste, such as sludge, plastic, metal, and most anything you can find in landfills and dumps. Things that take 1,000 years to decompose. And I can guarantee you that there's no shortage of recyclable garbage no matter where you go. I mean, for heaven's sakes, the Pacific Ocean's got an entire island of this stuff.
So one of the ways is to use bacteria together with waste products to make BioCement as construction materials for soil improvement.
And because this concrete is essentially made from garbage and sludge, it also contains bacterium that act as binding agents that allow the material to not only harden, but even chemically bind to the soil around it, making the foundations of these round homes harder to uproot.
Well, one of the ways to reduce the cost in construction materials is to use waste. We also have disposal problems. So when we learned carpet sludge is one of the ways which need to be disposed. So when we carried out some study to see whether it's suit our purpose, it turned out carpet sludge can be one of the materials used for our BioCement.
But Dr. Chu isn't the only engineer in the world who found a way to turn bothersome trash into building material.
Let's turn trash into cash.
In 2021, a Kenyan engineer named Gjenge Makers invented a type of brick made entirely out of plastic waste. These bricks are shown to be more durable than traditional concrete due to their sheer density and binding properties of the ingredients used to make them.
This is the plastic waste we get from factories. With this, we mix with sand, as the plastic is like the binder.
These bricks are also a pretty viable option to consider when building our round, hurricane-resistant homes, while also helping clean up humanity's biggest messes.
So right now we are just making paving blocks, but we now want to make actual building blocks. So far we have recycled 20 metric tons, and we are looking to push that value to 50 by the end of next financial year.
In addition to house exteriors and binding agents for other building materials, such as brick or stone, biocement could also be used to build other infrastructures typically made using concrete. These include sidewalks, roads, bridges, retaining walls, drainage canals, and even Bermuda roofs. Bermuda roofs are roofs made from limestone that resemble white steps, found on top of houses in, you guessed it, Bermuda! Bermuda is a British colony located in the Atlantic Ocean, and it is also prone to hurricanes. But unlike most Caribbean nations, Bermuda seems to be fairly well off both in and outside of their resorts. Bermuda doesn't have that many freshwater reservoirs, yet receives a huge amount of rainwater every year, and access to clean drinking water is not an issue over there. Rainwater, which is water in its purest form, is harvested from these roofs by the residents and is usually safe to drink due to the roofs staying relatively clean. This is because limestone is an impermeable material, so dust and mold doesn't accumulate as easily as it would on roofs made from other materials. Deltec themselves have even incorporated the use of Bermuda roofs at the request of some of their clients. And most of Deltec's homes are built with water filtration systems that actually harvest and purify rainwater. BioCement has similar properties to limestone, making a good candidate for not only the house exterior's building material, but also the roofs as well. Countries in hurricane-prone areas that are also susceptible to flooding, as you are probably aware, struggle with harvesting and distributing clean drinking water to everybody. So Bermuda roofs on top of round houses could also be addressing and solving multiple issues all at once. How's that for killing two birds with one stone?
Like this.
Lastly, we're going to discuss how helping solve the hurricane crisis in these island nations can also help them develop in other ways. With less time and effort being focused on repairing the damage from these hurricanes brought on every year, this should allow more opportunities for these developing nations to solve other issues that they may face. Social issues such as corruption on the government level, widespread poverty and economic disparities, technological developments, improving agricultural practices to feed a growing population, improving education, reducing crime, and even other infrastructural aspects such as drainage systems and flood control, or even flood prevention. Things that their first world counterparts have, for the most part, taken care of. The biggest challenge in spreading this technology, of course, isn't the lack of resources on our part, but rather the cost of shipping as well as the time and energy required to get these materials to where they need to be.
I think there may be economic issues in certain areas that are prone to high wind storms that we see that would make it difficult to be a standard home. We try to utilize the cheapest, safest way to ship. There's an example going down the road now. It's an over-the-road enclosed tractor trailer. So that's the least expensive domestically in the 48 states. When it gets on an ocean container, when it's going to the Caribbean, there are things that create a higher cost there, and that primarily is that the freight forwarders don't have much that they're bringing back because the Bahamas imports most of their goods. They aren't exporting much at all. But that's part of my job as the head of the business development, is trying to get more of our homes into these areas. We estimate there are about 6,000 of our homes worldwide. We have homes in all 50 states and in 33 countries now. It covers most of the globe in that we have homes in Australia and West Africa and Japan. But I think that the most homes are built in these high wind areas across the Caribbean, as well as the Gulf Coast of the United States, particularly Florida.
As the wealthier nations of the world, I believe we owe it to developing countries, not just in the Caribbean but all across the globe, to use our seemingly infinite resources, technology, and influence to help guide these countries in the right direction. We need to provide long-term solutions to problems, enlist the help of those with various fields of expertise, and have them work together with the locals to make these solutions happen. We should be exposing every citizen of these countries to the latest techniques, practices, and technologies so that they too can sustain themselves. Let's make it so that every country in the world gets to enjoy the same high standard of living and peace of mind that we do, making third world countries a thing of the past. I mean, let's face it, most of today's first world nations are directly responsible for the downfall and current turmoil that our impoverished neighbors face. France is one of the best economies in the world, and everybody there has easy access to quality healthcare. Meanwhile, Haiti is still recovering from an earthquake that happened in 2010. Now there's another phenomenon that prevents poorer nations from developing. Seismic activity combined with an infrastructure that isn't built to withstand it. That seems like another topic that needs addressing, but I'll save that for a different documentary. In the meantime, I'm off to take a vacation to the Appalachian Mountains, a place that's completely safe from hurricanes. Pfft, a hurricane in the mountains. Can you imagine something so ridiculous happening? That'll be the day.
Trapped in paradise, trapped all day, all night. Oh, I'm trapped in paradise. Do you think that is right? I'm a hostage, can't pay school fee. I'm a hostage, I'm down on my knees. I'm a hostage, I can't even rest my head. I'm a hostage, man, things really dread. Whoa, yeah, whoa, yeah, whoa, yeah, whoa, yeah, whoa. The air is nice, World Heritage Site, but it's a struggle to stay alive.
Sham f***ing pain!